Hello and welcome to the Monday Scrum, but a very different looking Monday Scrum. A few imposters today. So Emma Lawrence alongside Woodsy, and JD is here as always. JD, thanks for having us.
At the moment, aren't I? Like, crikey.
So Reedy's still on Olympics duty, I believe.
Is he even working over there, Reedy?
All he kept posting on Instagram was him going out having snails with Dave Riccio.
mate,
I've watched that much on the Olympics, and I have not seen a thing from Reedy.
From Reedy.
I haven't seen one story.
Nothing.
Is the bloke working over there?
Well, he was at the rugby a lot, then he was at the athletics,
Actually, you know
according to Instagram anyway.
Can I say something? I saw him actually on the Matty and Missile podcast, and he looked weathered. He needs a shave and a haircut. He
would have just been on the wines the whole time.
Looked like he's seen better days.
And Peacock's still on Olympics duty, so he was part of the stand coverage. And Jimmy is on the Royce Simmons walk today. So
we know why Jimmy's not here today. Because there's a little biting incident on the weekend, and he's a professional biter.
He's catching up with Kyle Flanagan and trying to go through an appeal process.
Helping the defence system.
Yeah, it didn't work for me. Maybe go this angle.
Poor Jimmy. He's going to have to... Did he talk about it he spoke about it on Sunday?
He deflected about it.
Okay.
Yes.
Poor Jimmy. But he's doing a good thing today on
he's doing a great thing.
The Royce Simmons walk. You were there when Royce was at the Tigers,
yes, I was.
Yeah,
one of the great men.
One of the best blokes in the world. I know my brother did a leg of it with, I think, Paddy Richards and maybe John Scandalis last week.
Yep.
But I did a story with Royce when he first got diagnosed a couple of years ago. And it was inspiring how positive he was. Just straight away wanted to make a difference and looked at Mark Hughes and what he'd been doing and thought, you know what, I'm not going to sit here and sulk about it.
He's a great man, Royce. Have you ever done anything with him, JD?
I've met him a few times, Royce, and had a few chats with him. He coached St Helens over in Super League for a bit. Yeah, and I just remember thinking he matched what you thought he would be like, because he's got to be one of the most lovable blokes ever in rugby league. And then you meet him and you go, he's exactly what you think. So, yeah, he's doing – it doesn't surprise me that he attacks it with a smile on his face, that's for sure.
And also what we loved about the weekend, Manly, what a win for them, Woodsy.
Yeah, look, we attacked really well. As a coach, JD, you'd be happy with getting 46 points on the board, but I think it was the 24 we leaked. Look, we scored the points probably in about 65 minutes, but we felt a little bit away at the back end of the game. And this time of year, you really want to pride yourself on defence. I think the last couple of weeks we leaked in 34 against the Roosters as well. We just really need to pick up that part of our game. But like I said, we're getting the wins. We're staying in contention with the 4. We're giving ourselves a little bit of hope, but we really need to work a bit harder on our D.
Yeah, that was probably it was probably about 8 minutes, I reckon, of where they were a bit disappointing, and more so in the attitude. I thought defensively they were pretty good for the first 65 minutes, and you could visibly see there was a point when they made a break down the right-hand side, and Tom made the tackle and then ended up just staying it on the short side and put the young Hopewade to fullback, and they leaked the try on the far side. It was sort of that where they were just like bit of clock watching and waiting for the game to be over, and that was a little bit disappointing for them because the points difference could be huge going into the finals. It could be a difference between sneaking in the top 4 or not, but hugely impressive performance for Manly. I thought that was going to be a tough, tight game, but you could see early on they were going to open this game right up, and they did. They were really impressive.
I think it's just like we attack from our own end, and teams don't like that. But, watching the Sharks the night before and the way that they turned up for each other on the try line, that was a big difference in why the Sharks are back in contention again, because their attitude to the defensive efforts was remarkable. They were up 44-0, but they were busting their backside to not let 1 point in. Yeah,
and even more impressive given they didn't have their 2 regular halves there as well. Speaking of impressive, Sean O'Sullivan and the Dolphins getting home with that 2-point field goal. Firstly, before we get into the field goal, just the Dolphins in general. Do you think it's good for the game that the Dolphins are in 8th and they can play finals? The fact that it's Wayne's last year there, it's their second year in the competition. It'd be, I don't know if I just have my journo hat on here, but I think it would be a good story for the Dolphins to make the 8.
Oh, it'd be huge. Yeah. It's in their control now. That's the best part. They're in the 8. They've got some really tough games coming up. And this is what I've been saying for a while. I feel like the Dolphins' second half of the season draw was going to be difficult, really difficult, especially coming out of an origin period and still with some guys in there that aren't used to playing full seasons in the NRL, your Bostocks and guys like that who are still finding their feet in a full season in the NRL. And you saw a couple of weeks ago, Tom Hazelton get rested. You know, again, just that grind week in and week out. And now they've got to go to beat the Bulldogs in Sydney, and then they're going to play Melbourne in Melbourne and then finish or have another game against Brisbane as well. So if they make it, they'd have definitely earned it, that's for sure. And they've scored enough points to make it, but can they defend? That's the problem. I think they're leaking over 30 points a game for the last 6 weeks. So if they tighten that up, they're a big chance.
With that run home, do you see them sneaking in, Woodsy? It's tough. Bulldogs, Storm, Broncos, Knights.
If they had Jeremy Marshall-King, I'd be a little bit more confident.
It's a huge loss.
Look, Max Plaff's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Like, he's an absolute competitor. And, you know, you got a lot of young blokes, like JD said. They're not used to playing that consistent style of footy. But, I don't know, I've seen some funny things from Wayne Bennett over the years, and he tends to get them up for those big games. I reckon he'll really have them up for that Broncos game, but it's the other ones around it that he said, the Storm, that's going to be huge, and the Bulldogs away. You know, the Bulldogs, the momentum that they've got at the moment, they're one of the real hard sides in the competition. I know they haven't got a big pack, but, geez, they work hard for each other.
Saying that, though, it's at Bundaberg, isn't it, the game?
Oh, it is too. Sorry, yes, it's at Bundaberg.
So it's an away game, but
Yeah.
they're not leaving Queensland. So
Yeah, that's fair, actually.
that'll make a difference. You'd much be rather playing them at Bundaberg than going to Belmore at the moment to play them. So,
And, mate, like, for their credit, the Dolphins, like, they've been without Flegler, with Tommy Gilbert for a long period of time, and Jerry Marshall-King.
Yep.
So, look, I always thought they'd dip this time of the season. I thought they overachieved early on. They won some games that they probably shouldn't have won, but, mate, they've done a really good job. And like you said, if they're going to make the 8, they're going to really deserve it because they've got a tough draw the next 4 games.
Well, they've got Sean O'Sullivan to thank for that win on the weekend, that 2-point field goal. JD, how much do players practice that at training? And do you think that it's improved field goal technique in general? The fact that whether it's a 1-point or a 2-point, the fact that that's an option that players are practicing even more and from further out?
Yeah, look, I think it definitely added to the excitement of kicking a field goal, and the 2 points. What a great rule change, wasn't it? We all thought nothing of it at the time, but it's had some magic moments already since it's come in, and it's happened a few times now. People probably don't give it the credit. It's a massive kick under pressure from well and truly 45 out. The way he's nailed that off his left foot, which is his natural foot, but. Yeah, knowing Shawnee would practice, he's the kind of kid who's out there. He's really humble, loves his footy. He's always doing extras. So I'd imagine he's had that moment in the back of his head. But he came off the bench as well.
Yeah,
so he was. It
was crazy. Eh?
He come off the bench to kick the winner, and you could see the excitement young Katoa had running over to him. Like maybe he was happy to hand it off to Shawnee. I don't know, but. It's a big kick.
Did you think he'd kick it? Like, I honestly thought with the setup, they were going straight to Sako because he always tends to float in field. And then to see Sean, I had to double take and look again.
Yeah, I think the position they were in suited the left foot.
Yep.
So the pressure generally comes from the inside, and the left foot kicker, he's kicking away from where the pressure's coming from, allows him to get a better strike. If Asako's a right foot kicker, he would have got more pressure from that side. So that's probably why they went with him. But it was actually, everyone was probably thinking the same thing. It was going to Jermaine and. Oh, yeah.
You know, one thing with field goals, JD, that I tend to, I spoke to Wade Graham and Joshy Reynolds earlier today about it, and they tend to hit more the 2-point ones now because when you get closer upfield, and I was speaking to Joshy about it, it's like, what's it like to kick those goals? And he goes, it's harder because you sort of toe poke them. Like, you don't hit them as hard as probably what you should because you're only so close to the goals.
So it's more difficult closer.
Yeah, and,
really?
and he said he reckons Matt Burton kicks them better from about 40 to 50 out. Because he just has a crack at them.
Yeah, and the other thing as well, teams are still not used to it as well. You know, when you're tying and you're that far out, you generally your 10 metres is 11, 12 metres, a bit further to get kick pressure on. You're back end of a set where you've defend up and back for 10, whereas you get closer to your trial, and especially inside the 10, it's nearly impossible to get one away. But yeah, it's probably an interesting one for the players to think about in terms of their mindset of just think about kicking it from 40 no matter where you're at.
You know what's frustrating as well, JD, is that, back in the past, you kick a field goal and you'd be up by 1, and you're sort of like, you're still not safe. But now when you're up by 2, and it's like, they can still get a 2-point field goal here. We're not home yet.
Oh, it's a massive change in the game, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like taking the 2, they go a short drop out. Was it Cleary? I'm pretty sure nailed it. Not
like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, no, I think
I
last
commentated
year.
the game last year. It was against Parramatta, so they got a penalty on their own line. He kicked, they landed probably about 38 metres out. They tapped it, passed straight back to him, and he kicked a 2-point field goal just to go to send the game to extra time.
Yeah, well, he
Wasn't
did
even to win the
against
game.
Para.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, that rule wasn't in. That game's over.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, it's...
You expect someone like Cleary to do it, but it was good to see O'Sullivan.
Yeah,
Not that.
it was,
I mean,
yeah.
you expect the bigger stars in the game to do it, but...
I love seeing the Journeymen have their moments.
Yeah.
You know, there's a guy who's battled at the bottom end of a top 30 and then worked his way up to that middle part of top 30, and then I think he had a pec injury that ruled him out for a large part of this season.
Yeah.
He's only been back for 2 or 3 weeks, I think. So, yeah, love seeing him get his moment. It's a moment he'll remember.
You worked with him, JD?
I worked with him briefly before when I was at Brisbane. He came in during the pre-season before Wayne left, and we all went to South and around that Christmas time. So got to know him a little bit then. But yeah, wonderful kid.
What about how much he loves rugby league?
Loves it. He's a student of the game. He always wants to get better, and he brings an energy about him as well to the people around him.
And I know this comes up a fair bit, but Golden Point, do we like it or not? I think Wayne Bennett said he wants it gone.
It's good when you're a player and you win it. Obviously, it sucks. Look, we played it. I know people want to see a 1 point if you lose, or 2 when you win. I was played in a game this year against the Warriors, and it was a draw. And because the Warriors ended up scoring 8 points in the last 2 minutes against us to send it to extra time, we got the 1 point, but it still felt like we lost.
Yeah.
So it didn't even feel like it was a victory for us. And speaking of Wade Graham, come up with a really good point. They should do a thing similar to what the NFL do. So if you kick a field goal in your first set in that Golden Point, the game's not over. You get it right of reply. If it's a first try, it can be game over.
Okay.
But if you go field goal, they should be allowed for the opposition to come back and have a crack themselves.
Just one set?
No, he reckons it should be a certain time limit.
Okay.
But if you get a try, it should be golden try.
Okay.
I
That's
think,
interesting.
I think it should be golden try.
Yeah.
An extra time. Like if you're going to have extra time, let's get entertainment.
What about you as a coach, JD? Because I've been on the
Sometimes it's
field.
just 5 hit-ups for a field goal attempt.
What if you're sort of in that position of, say, 40 metres out and the guys go for a field goal? Do you want to risk it, like, say, in that first 2 sets, or would you be happy just for them to kick to the corner defensively and try to work that?
Oh, you want your players to back themselves. If you've got someone who thinks he can, like if Latrell wants to step up and hit it, then I'm going to go hit it. Like it's I don't mind the one that's a bit further out because 9 times out of 10, if you miss, it's not going to go dead.
Just falls short, doesn't it?
So it's not going to be a 7 tackle set. It's the ones that are closer that when you miss them, then you're like, oh no, because you know they're going to be having a shot up the other end very soon. So we used to have a thing saying trying to get 2 in the 30 off the 20-metre tap. But it's when you're in extra time, that's hard to do. Like find the energy to do that. So
your backside's hanging.
All right, let's move on to probably the biggest story that's come out of the weekend, this biting charge against Kyle Flanagan. What did you make of it? When I first saw the video evidence, I thought, it's hard to argue, but many saying that Stephen Crichton shouldn't have put his head into Kyle's face, essentially, or what's your take on it, Woodsy?
As a player, you sort of taught wrestle, you got to get your head in tight, don't you, JD? Yeah. It's one of the things you look for when you're wrestling. Look, for me, he did bite him, but, Crichton does assist it a little bit by putting his face in there. But, mate, it's the slow motion for me. That just, I don't know how you can defend that. It's going to be a hard one for Kyle. You sort of see Crichton's nose goes into the mouth, and then he pulls away, and as he pulls away, it wobbles that little bit, and then when you see Crichton's nose, there's blood there. And then the other one, I was actually talking to JD off air about it. It's the fact that Crichton didn't put a complaint in straight away. It was after the game. So he sat down and thought about it and was like, no, he actually has bit me. So that's the little bit of a worry I get for Kyle, that he's come out later on and then put the lodge of complaint in.
But wouldn't you think it's more damning if he complained straight away, if he knew straight away that he'd got bitten?
Well, sometimes when you're on the field, you're like, what goes on the field stays on the
Okay,
field. That's how I see it as. Like,
so he might
normally you'd be angry
it.
straight away, and then
if
you've not reported it straight away, by the time the game ends and you've won, you probably gotten over it. But he obviously wasn't. He was obviously felt pretty strongly about it to then report it. But I just love the two sides of trying to defend and trying to say, no, he did it. No, he didn't do it. He's got his dad as the coach coming out. Or like if you ever want your dad as a coach, that is the moment you want.
I know.
When you've been accused of biting someone, having him there trying to support you. But I've been in similar positions before, and someone's sticking something in your mouth and driving it into you, and you're just thinking, I'll have a little munch here. But
the other thing is, like, he's got his eyes closed, and like there's so many things you could probably pros and cons, but the end of the day, I think it's the footage that's quite damning.
I remember sitting in the physio room talking to Jackie Boy about his one early when he first came over because he missed the first 3 games because of or 2 games because the All-Stars counted, but he missed suspended for 3 weeks. Who did he bite? It was Tyson Gamble, I believe.
Oh, everyone wants to bite him, but that's okay.
So what did Jack say about, like, it's hard to, if you're wrestling, I haven't been in that position, but trying to wrestle away, can it happen accidentally?
Well, in his case, he had him with a forearm in his face and then drove it further into his face, which is where it ended up, but you could clearly see Jack just biting down the bottom jaw, just have a little munch there, but he still proclaims he's innocent, but I just laugh. It reminds me of George Burgess got suspended for 9 weeks for eye gouging, and still to this day he says he didn't do it.
You kind of have to say you don't do it,
Robbie
right?
Farah. You saw him come over with his hand, grit his teeth and going like, no, I didn't do it. No,
you got to deny all the way. And once you've stuck with that, you can't later on say,
you
look,
don't
I
be
did
known
it.
as a biter, but the thing is, how long is he going to get?
Well, what would you... So Whiten got 3, Proctor got 4 weeks.
I played in the game where Proctor got 4 weeks, and it didn't really look like a biting thing either. Like, I was like, wow. Like, but Sean was quite adamant, and he ended up lodging the complaint straight away. Look, I reckon they'll probably give him 3 or 4 weeks. It's the rest of the season. And then if they make the semi-finals, it's up to his side to keep going all right to keep him playing.
You can understand why the Dragons are trying to defend it as strongly as they can because it's important.
They need him.
They need him. They need him playing. He's been an integral part of that season. Had probably his best season in the NRL so far. So, look, I think it's one of those things that happen in the heat of the moment, but unfortunately there's cameras everywhere these days, and once the player makes a complaint, it's been referred, it's pretty hard to get off.
Do you see, I mean, if he's out, it makes it a lot tougher, but the fact that the Dragons are 9th at the moment, so on 26 points, same as the Dolphins, who are just in the 8, but the Dragons, Woodsy, have a horrible for and against.
Yeah.
And their run home...
Their run home's not too bad. I think they've got Titans. So they've got 4 games. They've got Titans, Sharks, Eels and Canberra. They could look at 3 out of 4 minimum, but I reckon the task's going to be even harder without Kyle because I reckon they've complimented himself and Ben Hunt. He's used Ben Hunt as decoys quite a fair bit, and what he does, he's brought his show and go into the play, which teams got to keep an eye on him now. And then in the same instance, because he's got the show and go, takes the onus off Ben Hunt a lot more. But then with him out, Hunt's going to have to go to 7, which could bring the best out in Benny in these next couple of weeks. I
think it's Marski, is it?
Yeah.
That too was there, yeah. I was trying to remember before. Yeah, I think he'll come in. He's a similar type of player, But what Kyle's also done, he defends really well.
Really good.
His defence has been outstanding, and that's going to be a big challenge for whoever comes in. But
he's got good effort areas, Kyle.
Yeah, he's
been watching like great push support, great covering tackles, like you said, good defensively, gets his body in front for a half. He's a bit bigger than your usual type of halves as well. And they're the little things I know what his old man works hard on the game. So, like you said, it's just going to be how the combination of Marski and Hunt does work.
And I think Marski's only played with Kyle while Ben Hunt was at Origin. So they haven't actually played together. And that's the challenge. It's not just whether he's good enough. It's just trying to form that combination quickly under pressure at the toughest time of the year. So... but he's played first grade before, so they'll have every team's got to go through it. Penrith are going through it. Melbourne's been through it, so see how it goes. He's not suspended yet, anyway.
Yeah. And can the Doggies go all the way? There seems to be. I feel like more than any other team at the moment, there's the most hype around the Bulldogs. And last week at that Belmore game, we saw those scenes, and the fact that they're doing so well under Cameron Ciraldo, but I think the fans have just, like, they're one of the most passionate
they're incredible
fan bases in the competition. So I think between the two of them, like the fan interests, the on-field performances, there's a bit of a buzz around Canterbury at the moment, but are we getting too far ahead of ourselves in saying that they could go all the way?
It's just hard not to like what they're doing, isn't it? Both on and off the field.
Yeah.
But I think, they've had a lot of seasons where they probably wouldn't like to be where they were over the last 4 or 5 years, and you saw signs in patches last year of where they were going, but the consistency that they're playing with at the moment, and they're playing like a top 4 side every week consistently, and they saw that on the weekend against the Dragons. They were that little bit better in a lot of areas and just overpowered them in the end and did it pretty comfortably. So their challenge now is to keep doing it and try to get in the top 4. If they get in the top 4, I still think the way they defend and the grind footy that they can play, they're the kind of team that can get in under Penrith's skin. But and Parramatta have done that over the last few years. So it'll be interesting to see how they play these next few weeks because there's still a big chance of finishing in the 4.
All right, well, it is time now for this.
Now, the WTF moment.
We'll let JD go first because he's the regular. So, not that I think you'd stuff it up, Woodsy, but JD gets the honours first. What's your WTF moment?
Go to Woodsy first because I'm still thinking of mine. Woodsy's got one.
Woodsy.
So I'm a big fan of the Olympics, guys. You've obviously been watching it. It's all over Channel 9, great coverage. What it's doing with the breakdancing. Poor old Ray Gunn for Australia.
She's copped it.
Yeah, she's copped it, but some of the dance moves, I reckon I could do better than that after a couple of bourbons on the dance floor. Honestly, she's come in with the kangaroo, jump up and down. Even like I think that the outfits let her down too. Like our Aussie outfits were quite shocking for breakdancing, which didn't give her much help going into it. And she's copped a lot, but you know what? She's embraced it. She's done a little collab with the Inspired Unemployed Boys.
Saw that, yep.
She's embraced it, but yeah, that was my what was doing WTF moment there.
I've got to be honest, I didn't actually see the full routine.
But you know what? She didn't even get 1 point, Emma. She got 0.
I've just seen the bits that people have clipped up and put in memes, and then I've seen lots saying, my bestie and I training for breakdancing at the next Olympics, and everyone.
When I was driving today, I was listening on the radio. Adele was commenting on it.
Really?
She goes, "Have you seen that Aussie breakdancer? Like at one of her live performances? Yeah. If you want to have a laugh, go and watch it." Poor thing.
I said coming here today, I am not going to talk about Ray Gunn because
come on, mate.
No, I'm not doing it.
But I still love her. She's A+ for effort.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's embraced it afterwards.
She has, yes.
Yeah, good on her. JD, have you got one?
Yeah, I just thought the performance of the Sharks, but more so the WTF was the Titans season on the line.
Yeah.
Massive game, playing against a team, lost both their halves, and to concede 44 points was disappointing for a team who I think's been one of the form teams of the competition over the last 4 weeks.
My WTF moment, I'm going to go with some NRLW action.
Oh, yep.
I was up there at Totally Workwear Stadium yesterday. The Broncos, where's that been all season? So they pumped the Titans, who are at the top of the ladder, only third round, but Mele Hufanga got 4 tries.
She's a machine.
She's an absolute weapon. She's so hard to stop. I remember Lockie said in our halftime wrap, I said, how do you stop her? And he said, well, from close range you can't. But then she scored like an 80-metre try as well, so it doesn't matter where you are.
Yes.
Deceivingly fast. Because for her size, you think she might not have the footwork or the speed, but she does.
She's not a rugby league background either, is she? Didn't she just get into it recently?
Yeah, only in the last couple of years.
Wow.
There have been a few that have come over as well, I think. So the Broncos had a player, Stacey Walker.
She got a gold medal, didn't she?
In Paris with the New Zealand side in the sevens.
Dragons.
Tyler King now. She was Tyler Nathan Wong. She just came back as well.
Oh, so
from
she was
Paris.
Nathan Wong. So she got married, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's Tyler Nathan Wong. Because a lot get confused. But it's just her married name.
How good is that? A couple of gold medalists coming back joining the NRLW.
And helped lift their sides to victories as well. So the Dragons
Yes.
actually upset Newcastle, the 2-time defending
They're heavy
premiers.
favourites too, aren't they?
Yeah, Newcastle should be up there again. But the Broncos, starting the season with 2 losses, everyone was thinking, what's doing? Because they've got so many rep players, so many Maroons players.
Do they have the same salary cap as first grade, the Broncos?
Maybe the rules are a bit more flexible. I think
Good third parties.
I think they're a bit more flexible in NRLW because they don't earn as much. But it was good to see the Broncos bounce back. And they had Gail Broughton. She used to play 7, so she was with New Zealand in the Tokyo Games.
Mm-hmm.
She had back surgery in the off-season, so it was her first game back. So she made a difference. So, yeah, the Broncos, from just having a shocker start, the Broncos are back, baby.
One of the other things the Broncos I've noticed the last couple of years in the NRLW is moving Brigginshaw, who for me is by far the smartest footballer on the NRLW scene, and just understands the game and plays the game a speed ahead of everyone else. And they moved her to 13, and she does a lot of work and is still admirable as a 13. But you just take her game smarts away from her. You stop her from being able to control the game. And I noticed in the Origin they ended up going back.
They did, and then they won the series
and won the series. So
Yeah.
Well, she's, it's one of those, isn't it? And you want your best players playing in their best positions where you can. And sometimes people think, oh, I'll get the 17 and just put them where it fits. But for such an important position where she can control the game, her voice must be phenomenal when she's on the field because, like I said, game 1 in Origin, she's playing at 13. In game 2 and 3, she went back to 7, and they're a different team.
Yeah. Well done, Ali. You'd have to say she's the GOAT or one of in the women's games. And speaking of the Broncos, we're saying that in NRLW, they're back, baby. I don't know if we can quite say the same in the NRL. Look, they got a convincing win. However, it's still going to be – they can still mathematically make the finals, JD. But when you start using that word mathematically, it's –
The challenge is it's not up to them. It's up to them in terms of what they can control, and that's getting a result. They've got a bye this week, which is massive. So they'll be sitting back and hoping that the teams in and around them, which is very likely, is the Dragons in particular, get beat. There's another couple of sides in and around there. So if they drop some points and then they come into that next game going against Parramatta, they don't leave Suncorp for the rest of the year. All 3 games are at Suncorp.
That's huge.
I've been on the Broncos. Back in Kevy, I still think they can make it.
Yeah.
The only thing now is it's not in their control. The Dolphins have got it in their control. But if they drop a game and Broncos have a big win, then that game, I think it's round 26.
Yep.
Is it? Against the Dolphins. Wow, that'd be huge. That'll be already sold out.
They worry me without, obviously, no Payne Haas back end of the year and Ezra Mann. Well, I reckon he's been one of the best players in the competition this season. And then just the other week against the Titans, I still think they've got a little bit of a hiccup in their game. That could happen. It almost happened on the weekend. Cowboys got out to a good lead, but they ran them back down. Like the form, Tony Staggs' game was unbelievable. Like
it was so good to see that, wasn't it? Because he's a guy, I've been watching the Broncos every week, and he's a guy who has been trying so hard.
And you just want to see him explode, don't you?
So hard he's been doing, and sometimes it's not coming off because he's over trying, but, geez, he stood up Valentine Holmes off the scrum, and wow.
Yeah, hasn't he been exposed since Origin, poor old Val, hasn't he?
Well, Fatape got him twice
the
week before. Everyone was talking about
but they should have got him a lot more,
Val
too.
Holmes was, and he did some great things with the footy, but he's just got a habit of sitting on his heels a bit, Val, when he comes up, and if you get inside your 10, that in and away. And if Tony Staggs gets outside you, first of all, you're not getting hands on him, and if you do, he's so strong.
I'll tell you a funny story about Val. When we were at Cronulla with Wado, every time we'd have a beer, because he always wanted to be fullback. And Wade used to come out, why do you want to be fullback? You're like probably the, sixth or seventh best fullback, or when we want to be, it's probably exaggerated, probably go 13th or 14th best fullback in the comp. He goes, mate, you're the number 1 winger in the competition, just stick to the wing. He goes, we know you get more money, but you're going to play better footy on the wing. He used to hate it, mate. He used to hate it.
Well, wingers, they always either want to move into the centres or to fullback.
Zach Lomax is the same. He's the best winger in the comp by far.
Well, they're not proud of themselves, wingers.
I reckon it's starting to change. They're getting a bit more money because they've got to do the play 1, play 2 carries. They've got to finish tries, and they've got to do good reads defensively now.
Yeah, in saying that as well, though, on the weekend I was thinking, man, that the Dragons were struggling to score points, and sometimes just being able to switch Lomax into the centre to get some early ball to him, just to try to let him create a little bit like a Staggs or someone does, I think is good. Otherwise, you've only got his kick threat.
That's it. Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of him being on the wing, is being able to switch it up sometimes and pull him into the centres, give him some early ball and let him play, and just make him happy a little bit as well, make him feel good.
When he's happy, he's a different man, Zachy boy, isn't he?
Like when you give a kid a lolly.
Yeah,
What a season he's had.
We always used to say, why can't you fit for the war? His ego's a little bit too big. So, but mate, he's been incredible this year. And like I said, playing Origin, he'll probably play for Australia at the back end of the year, and he's deserved every single bit of it.
All right, so just to wrap up, we've talked about the permutations of the top 8. The different scenarios.
Jeez, that was an 80s haircut, wasn't it?
All the different scenarios.
Not Channel 90, you're rugby league, mate.
All of the possible options and scenarios. We're talking maths here. So you got to pick your 7 and your 8. Who slides into the 8? So we're assuming the top 6, they stay as they are. I mean, it could change.
I probably reckon the Cowboys stay there.
Cowboys and...
Because they've still got to buy up their sleeve, and their for and against is okay. You know what? I'm probably going to go with the Dolphins.
Cowboys and Dolphins?
Yeah. I reckon the Dolphins might just sneak in there.
JD, you think the Bronx can get in?
I do. Yep, I think
Bronx.
they can sneak into that 8th position. It's going to come down to, I think it'll come down to the game against the Dolphins. Where how good's that? Suncorp Stadium, 52,000, playing for a spot in the finals.
That'll be epic. I wonder what day. I hope that's a Channel 9 game.
Oh, look out.
Right, the Broncos have got to take care of Parramatta first.
yeah,
They've got
Triple
2 weeks to
M
prep
I
for
reckon
that.
that's a tough one
Shotgun
to Parramatta
working.
for them. Because the Parra got a good record against them. They tend to always show up. Remember the semi-final when they blew them off the park by 50?
Yeah. I think it gives them 2 weeks, though, to prep. It gives Rogers a chance to get some reps in at training. And then for really, they've had a lot of disruption through injuries and that, but this next 2 weeks is important for Kevy and the boys up there to get ready and go after the Broncos. Go after the Eels. That's all they can do. And then set up a massive game.
Yeah, you just hope they beat Eels. You want to see that.
You want to see
It'll be, a promoter's dream.
And Canberra was the other disappointing one of the weekend. I thought, this is they're going to make this a grind and make it physical for Manly. And
But you know what, JD? You know what I felt sorry for them? That play right before half time when they probably should have scored, when they brought it back but the ref blew his whistle. And then it just shows you momentum in the game. We end up holding them out for that set. They kick and then we score. So instead of them being up by 6, we're up by 6. It's a 12-point turnaround. That really, I watched them walk off the field. They look really deflated.
Yeah, there's a real issue for Canberra either side of half time. I've said it a couple of times. I've done a couple of games this year, and it's a noticeable difference, the intensity and how they play when Tarpany and Papali'i come off the field. So that happens when you've taken off 2 of the best front rowers in the game, and you got some young middles that are still finding their feet, and you got guys like Emre Gula and Corey Horsberger playing reserve grade. The reserve grade pack was strong on the weekend. So it's just hard to keep that intensity up for 80 minutes. So when those young guys come on, they don't need to win the game. They need to just do their jobs and hold the fort. And they conceded, I think, 4 tries either side of half time. By the time Tarpany and Papali come back on the field, the game was over.
And they were frustrated, as you said.
Well, Tarpany come on, got sent straight off.
Yeah. Well, big month of footy ahead to finish the season. We'll have you covered for all of it on Triple M. Woodsy, it's been fun as the ring-ins, but JD, you'll have your crew back next week, I believe. So Jimmy, Adam Peacock, and the great Brent Reid will be back with all of his stories from the Olympics. So
we're going to have to make it a 2-hour episode next week just to listen to Reedy's stories.
When
you got Reedy's mail.
Does he even do it? But
he just makes it up.
Remember when he went to the Masters, he come back with all the Masters kit? I wonder if he comes back with the Olympic kit this time.
Surely he will. We love you, Reedy, and we'll see you next week and see everyone next week as well for another edition of the Monday Scrum.